because the mic was off.
I can hear you.
Right, but bits are saying no sound.
No, now bits.
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, there we go. There we go. Now, I don't know if that's going to fix our lag. It's really still jumpy over here, and my computer still says that it's got network issues. So that being said, more than likely there is an issue either in my neighborhood. Can see more movement. Okay. But I'm still getting lag over here, so there could possibly be something in my neighborhood or with my service provider. So we'll could be everybody's doing last minute gaming because the school system here locally goes back to school tomorrow. So all the kids Tuesday?
Yeah.
So the kids So the kids are probably all, getting the ability to stay up a little bit later. And that's causing drain as well. I don't know. The simulcast could be. I'm actually casting to Restream, which is then sending it through to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. So I don't know. There's so many different things, all these working parts. So real quick, we are going to take a quick break, okay? And we're going to, because I worked so very hard on this lovely little be right back screen, I want to use it once before I put the one that Shar made for us, which I did ask for. So, this is great. But I was like, here's a placeholder. So I want to use it once. I want to use this placeholder once.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Here in a moment, y'all will see my be right back screen that I worked so fucking hard on. Okay, here we go. We'll be right back. We are back.
Beautiful Be Right Back screen. Gorgeous. We're not going to use the one that I spent 4.5 hours animating. Nope, we're going to do that one instead.
No, we're not. You already sent it. You can't stop me.
And
You can't stop me.
I'm also exaggerating. It was more like 2 hours.
Okay. And it does look like we have less lag, although I'm still seeing me freeze a bit on the screen. So, entirely possible that it's my internet tonight. So, we're going to look at a couple of other things. Trisha hitting the giggity. Giggity,
Oh,
giggity.
Leon and CD and everybody got into a bubble war while y'all were gone. But the only problem is we didn't get to actually see those bubbles because we were on. I'll be right back.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to.
Let the animations come through.
That would actually be hilarious if you set it up so that the reactions popped up on the Be Right Back screen and they just like had fun with it.
Well, I actually did do that on the start screen because while it's still going, so many people were gifting subscriptions and your awesome animation wasn't popping, the thing wasn't popping up there.
I can't take credit for that animation. I bought that one.
Right, I know, but the fact that you set it up, so that it was there and it was good. So actually, here's what I'm going to do real quick before I forget. We're going to copy that and we are going to paste it right on there so that it will show next time and it will automatically save. That is awesome because everything is awesome.
Patrick's going
There
to
we
learn
go.
that apparently because his computer's giving him issues.
Okay. Yeah, Fortnite, Roblox,
Yeah.
Roblox. We're good. All right, so we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. So let's get to it. Okay. Oh, this is tiny on the screen. Okay. I might have to make that bigger. I'm old. My eyes are failing and my bifocals are not working. Okay. Chapter 1, Preamble. My mother leaves me. It's Saturday. She just did the shopping for the two of us, as it often is, and she tells me what she often tells me. You should write about what's happening to you right now. It could be good. Plenty of men go through this, and none ever say anything about it. I just saw a man climb up to the top of a crane and threaten to jump yesterday. To jump unless he had the custody of his children. Can you believe that? I don't know if I really, I don't really know if I should. I sometimes think about it, writing about my life. Who would be interested? It takes an overinflated ego to write about yourself without going through stories with fictional characters, right? I will nevertheless do it because who knows? Maybe my mother is right, and I need to explain what it's like to be a man of this generation. And to begin, well, you have to start at the beginning. The Court of Miracles. I was born at the end of the 70s to parents unprepared for life. My mother was in her final year of high school and had failed her finals. And my father, at the age of 27, although the eldest, was by far the child in the relationship. A child reluctant to become a father was forced by my determined mother to skip steps and to become a father. My father took care of me as much as he could, but without ending his social life, dedicating himself to the drugs of the moment in a responsible way, alternating between taking mushrooms, LSD, or whatever his passing friends, often for several weeks, had at hand. I grew up in an ashram like atmosphere, with groups like Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones, or Dire Straits in my ears, joining my parents' parties, learning to walk on beer cans, and falling asleep when tired in the corner of a room until early morning when one of my parents, usually my mother, would come with an absence of worry to wake me up to go home or to cover me with a blanket. This part of my life could appear to many as a horror film, you know, the baby on the ceiling from something. But those years were largely happy, despite the arguments between my parents generally about me, my father's reproaches to my mother for spending much time on me, or my father's reproaches to my mother for not being intelligent enough or not enough of something else. But before going to school, I don't have particular memories of these things. My father, who in such a short time in his life had already been a fisherman in Newfoundland and a private detective, had reinvented himself as a painter, producing canvases by blowing on black ink to form black trees and projecting colored inks, drawing a sky. He generally spent an entire afternoon producing about 50 canvases, at least if I didn't walk on them in the courtyard adjacent to our small 2-room rented apartment, after having played in the garden a bit further away. Then he would spend several days moving from apartment to apartment in some distant cities, trying to convince people, probably a bit richer than us, to buy them for just a few coins, making a instead of paying for paintings. He never failed to bring me back a small souvenir, often a plastic dinosaur, which became one of my treasures, and which I wouldn't fail to pass on to my daughter 30 years later. But I'm digressing. My father earned our money this way, often having little to eat. I systematically benefited from all the advantages due to my status as the only child, literally devouring the household resources in toys, food, and clothing, leaving only my father to be content with his traditional bottle of red wine at every meal, which my mother never failed to from. I was growing up this way, but soon I started school, and with school came the rhythm: getting up in the morning, going to bed at night. I, who had already spent almost 2 full years at after parties at this stage of my life, received a certain shock that would never really leave my life.
Jesus.
And I fear, unfortunately,
Sorry.
that it was even worse for my father, whose social life disappear along with his consumption of substances by force of circumstances. It is indeed much more complicated as well as risky to accompany your child to school in the morning in the middle of an acid trip, lest you confuse a green light for pedestrians that are on the elbows, or another of these magical effects that would later experience in the same story. Nevertheless, we suddenly became a normal family in the middle of our street, composed of a dozen houses, most of which occupied by squatters and other oddities of society, with whom we got along perfectly well until then, but who no longer at all corresponded to the aspirations of the average family to which my mother now aspired. Ah, my mother, an angel, always ready to take care of me, manage our meager finances by taking on various and diverse loans, burdening our family for the rest of her days, just so she would never miss out on giving me the Christmas gift I wanted, or the latest 33 turns of Davy Crockett, relentlessly continuing the previous stories and his heroic resistance against the Indian enemy. Yes, it said Indian back then. I know that's not how we say it anymore, but my childhood memories have the vocabulary and aren't meant something to anyone. So calm down. I can see you in the second row. Yes, you. Come on. Let's all calm down. Okay? I also started to take an interest in Marvel comics and the stories of the time, starting at home with a strong anti fascist arc. As my understanding of this world was very mature, I made the perfect connection between the X-Men and the racism it was really telling about when the wounds from the civil rights struggles were still very fresh, and the names of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, or even John Kennedy were still very present in society, for better or worse. Job in order to fund my ever-growing needs, and he never failed to make me pay for it, sometimes repeating to me how stupid I was when he hadn't had too much to drink. And then, when he had drunk, trying to carve it into my skin with his bony hands, reimagining his past art with multicolored bruises, whose timing and progression allowed him to create revolutionary tones of green or purple, generally well hidden by clothes in order to avoid any suspicion from the outside world. After all, they didn't need to know our private stories. Family life is like Las Vegas. Happens in the bedroom should stay in the bedroom. Thrombophlebitis. Somewhere around the time I was 6 or 7 years old, when I had already proven from afar that my academic brilliance was matched only by my deadly boredom of making my teachers aware of it, my mother, who unfortunately was more sensitive to substance mixtures than expected, and at that point in our lives was terribly dependent on the violent substances that were cigarettes, the contraception pill, and delicious and generous meals, realized one evening after watching a movie whose title would certainly escape its author today that her leg had doubled in size. To understand this, I need to explain that my mother was not a small person, at least not in all dimensions, since since she occupied, like a queen, a significant space in the room where she was. And by that, I mean in all the respect due. She is absolutely my favorite person in the world, aside from my daughter or my lover. But to put it as crudely as possible, she was quite significantly overweight. And as a side effect, her leg in its original state was already quite broad, which would not have suffered from a comparison in volume, if not in quality, with most of the weightlifters of that time. So the fact that it had now doubled in size seemed, in a rather comprehensible way, a quite sufficient reason to be worried. But my mother, who had the habit of dealing with most of her health problems with a good dose of, we'll see if it gets better tomorrow, proposed to do the same with this leg issue, whose volume could only at this stage be compared with clothing sizes that would only be invented much later in human history, when the food industry had finished adding all the least expensive and least nutritious substances to our daily dose of endocrine. My father, greatly concerned for his family's well being in these cases, turned out to be a good person sometimes and wouldn't let the night decide the matter, taking her directly to the hospital. After a quick examination, it turned out that my drug addicted mother, who had dared to mix excessive good meals with cigarettes and the contraceptive pill, was having a thrombophlebitis. So you might ask, what is a thrombophlebitis? Well, it's what happens when a blood the femoral artery, and this artery ends up blocked, which can lead to leg necrosis, amputation, and a pulmonary embolism, which can obviously, among other delights, in the following days.
What the fuck? Right there, right there. I just wanted to go. Okay, here we go.
I don't know. Suddenly, see, this is why I have you guys on one side of the screen while I'm reading this on the other, so that way I can see what.
God! CD! What?
single-handedly making sure that we can pay for our newsletter in March.
I've been counting. He's now up to 2,050 bits. That's $205. Wait, $20 and 50 cents. 1 bit is a penny. My brain's frying too much right now to make the conversion. It's either 200 or 20. I don't know. What the fuck?
I think it's $25.50, but
20 sounds right because you move 2 decimal points. Yeah, so like $20. But still, what the fuck? That's why I cussed out. That's why I interrupted you earlier when you dropped 1,000. I'm sorry, Izzy.
You're okay. Okay. Thank you, CD, for the support.
Yeah.
Yep, signal loss. I don't know what the frick happened because all I had to do was resend the invites. We were still running. Bitzer. If you have money to throw around, there's a couple Patreons. She's got one. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Did we hear the wonderful word endocrine disruptors?
yes.
Well, you guys did. Okay. I feel sorry for this poor author. Their thing getting disrupted like this.
I haven't registered a word you've said this entire story other than the medical jargon, the thrum thing. So I feel really bad.
No. Trisha just said no.
Okay. Thrombophlebitis.
That's the word.
Somewhere around the time I was 6 or 7 years old, when I had already proven from afar that my academic brilliance was matched only by my deadly boredom of making my teachers aware of it, my mother, who unfortunately was more sensitive to substance mixtures than expected, and at that point in our lives was terribly dependent on the violent substances that were cigarettes, the contraception pill, and delicious and generous meals, realized one evening after watching a movie whose title would certainly escape its author today that her leg had doubled in size. To understand this, I need to explain that my mother was not a small person, at least not in all dimensions, since she occupied, like a queen, a significant space in the room where she was. And by that, I mean in all the respect she is due, she is absolutely my favorite person in the world, aside from my daughter or my lover. But to put it as crudely as possible, she was quite significantly overweight. And as a side effect, her leg in its original state was already quite broad, which would not have suffered from a comparison in volume, if not quality, with most of the weightlifters of that time. So the fact that it had now doubled in size seemed, in a rather comprehensible way, a quite sufficient reason to be worried. But my mother, who had the habit of dealing with most of her health problems with a good dose of, we'll see if it gets better tomorrow, proposed to do the same with this leg issue, whose volume could only at this stage be compared with clothing sizes that would only be invented much later in human history, when the food industry had finished adding all the least expensive and least nutritious substances to our daily dose of endocrine disruptors. My father, greatly concerned for his family's well being in these cases, turned out to be a good person sometimes and wouldn't let the night decide the matter, taking her directly to the hospital. After a quick examination, it turned out that my drug addicted mother, who had dared to mix excessive good meals with cigarettes and the contraceptive pill, was having a thrombophlebitis. So you might ask, what is a thrombophlebitis? Well, it's what happens when a blood clot forms in an important artery, here the femoral artery, and this artery ends up blocked, which can lead to leg necrosis, amputation, and a pulmonary embolism, which can obviously lead to death, among other delights. In the following days, my father learned fear, all while cooking me meals increasingly calorific, accompanied by salted butter sauce, sour cream, or other healthy products whose presence in my diet suddenly made me hope as well to develop my own thrombophlebitis in a few years if I worked at it seriously, which I certainly didn't miss doing, gaining a good 20 pounds over the following weeks. My mother survived. Duh. I was talking about her at the beginning of the story. Super spoiler. Her leg did too. It was really sad to miss her thrombophlebitis like that. And she couldn't admit upon her return that I didn't expect it to still work, referring undoubtedly to her leg and not to a prompt imposed last Saturday. My father could resume with serenity and enthusiasm his activities as a violent husband and I'm sorry. Damn. Fourth wall breaking much? Jesus. Nice job.
Drink it.
Okay. My father could resume with serenity and enthusiasm his activities as a violent husband and father, and everything was perfect in the best of all worlds, as said a philosopher whose name I have forgotten in a book whose name I would keep secret, because it could undoubtedly reveal the identity of the author of this text, and I am supposed to keep my identity secret all month of January. The brother. My mother didn't seem to notice my extra weight gained in her honor and to look more like her. But one must be understanding. She had gone through an experience that completely changed her life and put into perspective the value of it. She was now ready to pay a little more attention to herself, to live longer and avoid repeating this phlebitic failure, a name, an adjective. Who really cares about such details? And she now had only one goal in mind. She found a job and was helping us all straight up into the middle class and small bourgeoisie. Me, whose bohemian childhood had made me perfectly polyglot and capable of insulting people in a half dozen imaginary languages, ranging from Klingon to ancient Greek, passing
Nice.
through Romani and the flowery language of certain Marvel characters who had become very famous some 10 years later. So, me, the only child, was going to become a brother. The news filled me with joy, and I remember having announced it to all these people who had absolutely no importance for me, being resolutely a confirmed solitary who could only interact with imaginary characters or books about world mythologies, collecting yet another title of odd child from my classmates who already had a hard time fitting me into understandable categories for their brains, not very adept at differences, and even less so at that time. My father, on the other hand, was not very pleased. I was already a complicated birth, delivered with forceps. Hey, maybe this explains things now that I think about it. With a failed epidural at a time when this form of anesthesia was only recently practiced. The birth was entirely public, as the professor used my mother to show his 22 students how a difficult childbirth proceeds. Meanwhile, my father, far from there, had only managed to drown his alcohol in a bit of hemoglobin while waiting to find out if he still had a wife, or just a child, or both, or neither. My brother's birth, however, went as well as could be expected, despite the thrombophlebitis and the absolute warnings from all the doctors who almost guaranteed a certain death for my mother. She had probably planned to just go to sleep in case of death and see if things would be better the next day. In any case, the pregnancy was complication free and the birth easy, which would go on to predestine each of us to lives very similar to the respective ways we were born. I almost feel like my imposter complex sometimes mixes with a rather misplaced sense of superiority. It has to be said. My brother, born he received a first name that it does not belong to me to reveal so soon, no more than mine, and you will have to wait a little longer to know the rest of my story, which, although perfectly true, is no less full of quality and events just as incongruous and unexpected, of hidden sorrow turned into a circus act, of improbable and unflattering truths, and whose only purpose is to satisfy a request from one of its characters against the advice of its main protagonist. I would probably have been better off sleeping and seeing if it would be better tomorrow. Dun dun dun.
Is this a fucking biography?
I know, what the fuck?
Like, at first I thought it was just kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, making reference to the prompt. But the more it happened, and these little bits. Is this a fucking biography? Is this someone's actual life story? That's fun.
Oh my god. Well, I hope they submit more for next week.
Right? We got a muted mic. For those of you who can't see, Izzy muted her mic and she's cussing.
No, I had to actually mute the mic, not just to yell at the top of my lungs, what the fuck, but also because this one's running her mouth about who she thinks it is, and she's like pretty goddamn sure she knows who the fuck it is, because on top of that, it's not from a normal email that we've seen before. So somebody's playing some trickery. Or
That is a genius way to submit more anonymously is to use a brand new email address. That's genius. Wish I'd thought of that. Yeah, that was really good. That was really good. I'm glad actually that the stream cut out and we had to reset, because I was able to reset my brain after freaking out over what CD did and actually absorb the story. And we've got no camera and no mic on Izzy right now, so something's going down.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was fun.
I'm fully aware of how easy that is, but sorry, we had to have a conspiracy theory thing happening over here, and we couldn't have anybody reading our lips.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Very fair. Team.
Okay, I'm trying to keep as few things running as possible.
I'm checking. It's okay.
I just remembered that I have it not on Wi-Fi. Wait, what? Where?
Oh
where
yeah,
the-
I saw that. Yeah.
There it is. Maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on how well the rewatch freaking, plays. Any hoozle. Again, we are keeping quiet about who everybody is, but at this particular juncture, this one's got a bit of another layer of mystery to it. Ooh. Oh, Ace has got a project. Too bad you weren't closer. I got like rolls upon rolls of scotch tape. I could have just dropped it off, but
And duct tape.
look, we're not going to talk about the duct tape tonight because I've got a couple of people who need strung up by it. Any hoozle, we got another one. Now put that duct tape back.
I-
All right, next one.
I'll be back.
I don't know what she's doing. It's fine. It's fine.
She's a big girl. She's fine. She's all grown up. She's fine.
Oh, that's very, very sweet. Yes, we would love to see the kids' project. Okay, here we go. Gil Scott Heron was right. The revolution would not be televised, but a lot of people thought it would be and sat on their couches, clutching their bags of chips and cold liter tall sodas, sipping on beer and crying corruption when their team didn't do well in the big game. They argued politics they didn't understand beyond the latest broadcast and swam through cinematic daydreams and contrasts of cyan and orange, distracted from the windows and doors and the people who had voices they didn't want to hear because they'd not put down the remote long enough to sit in the silence of contemplation. The haunting still place where the haunting still place where the sound of their own reflections occupied their minds and critical thoughts spun the keys of their freedom, waiting for them to arrive. All the while in the empty streets where kids didn't play anymore, and in busy stores full of people listening to their devices and tuning out those around them, canceling reality faster than celebrities with misdeeds, the air changed. It thickened and thinned, cooled and heated, and before anyone could notice the sizzling in the sky and the tickling in their throats from breathing in, it was already done and gone. Laws and rules changed that day, but that didn't do a bit of good for what came in the heavy rolling clouds passing through the sky and the burning rain that soon followed. Colin Watson stared into the downpour, droplets catching on his lashes like tears, and maybe a few of them were as he watched the movers pack up everything he'd loved and loaded it onto a truck where he wouldn't see it again for days. Louisa waved an arm, balancing Amelia on her hip, and shouting from the porch as the poncho donning movers, for cheap, ignored her behind curtains of rain and under plastic wrapped furniture made into portable, momentary shelters from the storm. She scrunched her hair in frustration and turned her attention to Colin, standing in the middle of the yard, basketball in his hands and his hoodie soaked through to his skin. Would you come in and change before we get the clothes packed up? She hollered to her son, anger licking up her words like a flame through kindling. When he didn't move, still staring hopelessly at the truck, she stomped to the banister, leaned across the bushes, and called again, Colin Francis Watson! His head snapped around, eyes bulging as he stared at her. The ringing in his ears at last subsided. His body was colder than numb, an improvement, he considered, than how it had been in days. He curled his fingers against the basketball and stared at it, the rain running down his nose in rivers, and knew in an instant he'd not been crying after all. He breathed in the wet and the petrichor and blew it back out, trotted across the yard, heavy footed, thumped up the handful of steps to the porch. He didn't bother himself with saying anything to his mother or looking at her as he trudged by, stalking through the near empty house to find what once was his room turned barren, save a box or two, and the suitcase for travel, and a myriad half filled donation bins by the naked window. He grabbed the suitcase and dragged it to where his bed had been, opened it, and peeled off his wet shirt. It slapped against the floor, a splash of water streaking the floorboards, marred by his childhood. He grabbed the first dry shirt he could find and tugged it over his head, staining it with wet lines from his shaggy hair. He cursed under his breath and ruffled the messy mop before coming to a pained stop, staring at the pile of wet clothes, the numbness returning with the static ringing as if all the world was about to implode. Colin, his mom stepped into the doorway, finding. Just lost my place on the screen. Finding him frozen in silence again. He'd been this way since the movers showed up with the rain, and the reality of their circumstances became absolute. I know you don't like this, but your grandpa said this house is really nice and it's on a lake in a small community, and why does it have to rain? His voice came, half muted by mumbling. Louisa breathed out, exasperated by his melodrama. Sometimes it just rains, Colin. His jaw tightened as he swallowed, the hollows of his cheeks deepening for only a moment. Why didn't it rain when Dad died? His fist clenched around the handle of his suitcase. Or during the funeral? I don't know, Louisa said, setting Amelia on the floor, letting the younger child wander to the small box of toys left behind for the trek. She brushed off, straightening her shirt. I ask myself that all the time. And you know what? The only answer I ever get is because it didn't. Life isn't like a movie. You can't passively watch it go by. You have to be active and participate. What does that have to do with Dad? Louisa smiled, humbled, as she folded her arms and leaned on the doorframe. Every thought raced back to the man she'd loved and lost, who reflected in her son more than he yet realized.
Ah, chair swap. Gotcha.
Had to sit. Your dad never took anything for granted. He didn't let the world go by without being part of it. He was a force of change. And I think he'd be excited about this move. It's an opportunity, rain or not. Dad wouldn't have wanted to move. He snatched the sopping hoodie from the floor and shoved by his mother, headed for the kitchen. His father was many things: an activist, a self starter, a warrior of the people, a dreamer. But he was happy living in the first house he'd ever owned, the house he'd renovated when Colin was 10 and his cousin Maggie came to live with them for a while. The house he dreamed would be the only home his children would know right up to the day he died. All his love lived in the walls. And unlike Colin, Amelia was too young to recognize it. She'd grow up never knowing he'd lived, had been in his life for 3 short years, or what that house had been to her brother and their mom. The worst part, he realized as he tossed the wet shirt into a bag, was not Amelia's inevitable ignorance, but that in time, everything his father was would be little more than a fading dream, an echo of a lost time. One day, he'd forget what his voice sounded like and how he smelled, but he wouldn't forget the rain, the static, and the numbness consuming him with each passing second, because that moment was when change came with boxes and rain. Colin yanked the bag shut and tied it off in a tight knot. A tingle raced down his forearms and through his fingers. The bag gurgled, churning on its own. Pop, glop. A bubble surged from the top and spilled over the sides. Water splashed onto the floor. The bag remained in his hand. The hood of the shirt caught at the top where his fingers gripped. His breath caught hard in his throat, his thumb sliding over the dry fabric. A surge of roaring sensations he couldn't name coursed his veins. A scream and cry locked in his chest, but nothing came as he watched the puddle spin. Colin? Her footsteps stopped short as she came into the kitchen. He looked over, and he knew in a drop of his heart to his feet, the horror on her face was because she saw it too. Lisa gripped the steering wheel, keeping closer than usual to the moving van. Her jaw was tight, and periodically she checked the rearview mirror as Amelia quietly played on her tablet. Then her attention shifted to Colin. Her gaze burned into him, but he made no effort to acknowledge it and remained fixed on staring out the window. The dark sky had not lightened even in the deluge, and it seemed as though there was no intention for it to let up. Colin's hand moved to cover his mouth as thoughts spun wildly in his head. There had never been a moment in his life when he'd seen water do that. Maybe there was a dip in the floor they'd never noticed. Maybe it was a ghost. He wanted to believe the latter. I didn't expect it to work again, she said from the front. Colin looked up, confused but silent. The tablet, Louisa said, motioning to Amelia. You have a real talent for figuring things out. After it went down the stairs and the screen cracked, I thought it was done for this time. Her fingers tapped on the steering wheel. This wasn't what she wanted to talk about. The real conversation stung like thorns in the back of her throat, one she didn't know how to start. I didn't do it, he said flatly. I didn't say you did. Mom. Louisa looked in the mirror. Colin's lips pressed into a thin line, into a tight line, sinking steadily into a frown, the way it had when the funeral director had come to speak with him. The corners of his eyes tightened to hide the redness from tears gathering in a threat of revealing more than he could process. She breathed a sigh and sank back into her seat. I know you didn't, Colin. I don't know what happened. Maybe Maybe it was static or electromagnetism or something. She flippantly waved a hand. But I don't know. It's better if we just take it as a sign that it was time to leave. There's an entire future ahead of us. Everything is going to be all right. You'll see. His gaze fell. Then his head dropped forward, his hair still damp. He wiped his nose with his arm and sniffed, hiding the onset of another crying spell. Some days it felt like he wouldn't ever stop. Even when no tears came, his body was heavy and rattled in hollow reverberations with a scream he couldn't quite get out. I just want to go home. We're almost there, she said softly from the front. But it wasn't home. It was just a house they were moving into. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
To
that was a
quote
heavy one.
Bitzer, to quote Bitzer on this weekend, Ooftonium.
Yeah.
Do what?
Ooftonium.
Tony, like plutonium.
But filled with oof. Oh my
Oy.
Jesus. Holy cow. That. Y'all are killing me with this shit.
Ba ba ba.
Ta-da!
Why am I mean mugging it stranded on the screen? Good God.
I don't know. I look like I'm fixing to beat the hell out of somebody.
And I refresh the page and it still looks like I'm freaking.
There we go.
That's all right. At one point, it froze with Salem's butt pointed towards the screen. It was nothing but cat butt. It's a black void with a little pink circle.
Oh God. Chocolate starfish. Okay, so Uftonium with the whole, okay, dad died, it didn't rain, and life's not like a movie. All of those things, like, they hit you in the feels and makes it feel real, lived in. and like an actual believable experience because we've all seen it in the movies, we've all experienced it, and but what happened with the bag and the hoodie
Right?
and electromagnetism and like do we have like some kind of Static Shock character development happening here? Like, sorry, I've got now Marvel and DC characters in my brain. I know Static Shock is DC, but like, oh.
Hey, Artemis Elf is here.
Yes,
There's a lot of oof oof.
there was a lot of oof.
Like yeah, like they here they are doing a masterful job of depicting the kind of emotion that comes along with losing someone, depicting this what I'm assuming is a teenager's raw grief that he's struggling to process because he's already having trouble processing stuff because he's a teenager. And then all of a sudden, out of left field, you get this weird shit with the bag. Like, what the fuck?
I know
What is happening?
that. Oh.
This is like last night. This is definitely amazing.
I know. Who knew going, hey, I ran this little experiment based off of what Patrick did, and so now you're all gonna do it.
Right?
Like, who knew that would bring out y'all's best character and story development?
They're braver.
About bloody time y'all realize just how motherfucking good you are!
In the words of Stitch.
I know where you live, Julie.
And that's supposed to scare me?
But your cat insists on running an OnlyFans. I mean, I could use the money.
Only pause. Only pause.
Only pause.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because I'm a crazy cat lady, my reels are cat video after cat video after cat video. It has now gotten to the point where the Halloween bride will send me a cat video, and when I go to open it up, I've already liked it, and so I just reply to her with the little twins emoji, like, girl, please, our feeds are identical now. But every time I see one where it's like, times are getting tough, Snickers, we're gonna have to sell your feet pics to Only Paws, and suddenly the cat's foot comes straight out, and all you see is beans.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm wondering, Bitzer. Paranormal or superpower story, or what? Like, and that's the thing, right? The suspension of disbelief. Julie hated it. Hated it. When started delving deep into Destined for More for the rewrite, and I go, but why? But why? Well, what do you mean? No, I don't understand that. You have to no, put the world building in the goddamn thing. Make me believe that this is not normal for your world and this is. And that suspension of disbelief so that you can actually believe that there are werewolves. Make everything else believable, lived in, real, hierarchy structured, that they experience things, just like we do, maybe not the same things. And that's what this one did. That's what this one did so well, is that when whatever fucking happened with that goddamn hoodie and inside the bag and the spinning pool of water, like, it came out of left field with a nasty left hook that we did not see coming because we were looking at the right hand.
Yep.
Yes, I know where most of you live. And if I don't, I can figure it out very easily. FYI. Okay. Next up,
Next up is Redacted.
Redacted. But a next story. And the thing across it says, why don't we? Ellipses. Mia Sanford was beautiful. Her long brown hair came down into soft, barely there curls that matched the chocolate hue of her eyes. Her pale painted nails were kept modest and clacked against the table as she idly drummed her fingers, lost in thought again. There was no doubt in his mind that she didn't even realize she had started chewing on the end of her pen while she looked over the display on his DGV2. It was the latest portable device on the market that brought computers and phones into one, and his was mostly accidentally broken. The intention hadn't been to break it irrevocably. Ken had only meant to damage it enough to make it look like an accident, something forgivable in the eyes of a woman who had a gift for all things tech. Watching her work was like watching Da Vinci paint. Oh, fuck.
Izzy's muted.
Sorry, somebody described something like Da Vinci painting.
I prefer Van Gogh.
It was the mathematical way that Da Vinci's.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Da Vinci's amazing because he's not just a painter. He did everything.
Definitely, he was a Renaissance man.
Oh yeah.
Watching her work was like watching Da Vinci paint. I'm sorry, that line is sexy as motherfucking shit. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Wusa.
The hardest part was keeping his composure. Well, no fucking shit. Sorry, math is sexy. Anyway, but he'd been practicing that his entire life, or at least it felt like his entire life. When they met as children, she was special, but he didn't know why. There was just something in her smile that set her apart. Then, as they grew up, he watched as she raced through her teenage years first. It wasn't long before the other boys noticed her, and eventually they broke her heart. And he was there, always picking up the pieces as a friend. After all, they were best friends. One day, though, the world seemed to stop. She left him behind and went halfway around the earth for some high end school she was sure would change her entire future. She was right. It did. He missed her, grieved horribly for months, and then moved on. He dated a woman for a few years, but it never amounted to much. And she lived with the guy she'd met in college before she stopped talking about him. And he was conspicuously absent from pictures. She moved back not long after and found her dream job in Division Gate Monitoring, better known as DGM, the leader in all things DGV and communication. And they happened to be the exact agency that his firm had contracted for new tech, which is how he came to have the latest DGV before the general public knew there was a second generation, and how he managed to use it as an excuse to meet her for lunch. Well, she said slowly, closing the browser display with a swipe. I think that should do it, Mr. I promise I won't break this one. Mia smiled, sliding the DGV2 across the table. Thanks, Mia. I didn't expect it to work again, especially after it fell down the stairwell and fell? She scoffed. I have a hard time believing it fell 5 floors over every single step, Ken. It slipped from my hand and went over the railing, he said softly as he picked up the device and returned it to his pocket. I was in a hurry. Doing what? Chasing bad guys again? She sat back and took hold of her coffee mug, but didn't yet lift it. Her lips screwed to the side and thought, I don't know what's more dangerous, your job or you having any amount of breakable tech. Funny, he chided as he tried to relax, tried to ignore the way her neckline scooped perfectly down her chest to tease a slight shadow of cleavage, which he'd not had the pleasure of ogling in years. No, he told himself, this was not the time to think about that again. They've moved on from silly crushes. Besides, she didn't feel anything for him. He knew that for a fact because he saw it. It was the first time they'd reunited since she'd gone off to college a year ahead of him, and he'd taken leave from training at the Academy for Military Law and Enforcement. He met up with her and a few of their friends on the beach, and she was glowing with life the way she always did. Her smile greeted him, and the wind picked up her hair and twisted it like ribbons. Someone called for her ahead of them and leading the way. Mia turned away for a moment, the sun kissing her face and setting her skin aglow. His heart squeezed and crushed into his lungs. The roar of the wind turned silent, and he knew in an instant that what he felt had been alive in him from the days when they were only just children, waiting to bloom. When she turned back around, her smile came behind hesitation, her eyes not as wild and sparkling. He fell in love with her in the very moment she fell out of love with him.
Oof.
Oh my god. 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 Oh my
You can do it.
god. This is a gut punch. This feels like senior year, except I was Ken. Anyway, Ken said, shifting the conversation as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I was hoping to get a chance to talk to you. About what? Mia perked up, curiosity reflecting in her gaze. He pursed his lips, turning his attention to the window. Admitting anything was wrong didn't suit him, but keeping secrets felt worse. He folded his arms and considered how he wanted to say the very thing he knew would send her into a spiraled frenzy. I was talking to David and Tanner the other day, and Tanner said he happened to see Joanna. Joanna? She straightened, brows knitting tight. The Joanna? She leaned forward, keeping her eyes locked on him as she lowered her voice. Junkie Joe? His gaze slid to her, disapproving, but enough to confirm. So that's what you wanted then? You came to call in a favor. I helped you out. That was different. It wasn't. Kenneth Michael Jacobs. It was completely different, and you know it. Did you just full name me? A smirk curled in the corner of his lips. In public? Her face ignited in a brilliant red. Don't look at me like that. She stuck a finger out at him in warning. He tilted his head forward, bit the tip of his thumb to try to restrain the smile and subsequent laugh. If he knew anything about her, the thing he understood most was that she was wildly protective and had few qualms about stirring trouble for the sake of those she cared deeply about. He was no exception. They were nearly family, and she had a strong dislike for Joanna. It was almost as severe as his distaste for Andrew, who had had the nerve to hit her in front of him. Sure, Joanna had never raised a hand at him, but she'd done her fair share of harm. It was the same trauma in different packaging. I'm not asking for anything extreme, he said. Joanna is crazy, Ken. Mia's face scrunched. Asking me to do anything is forcing me into a dangerous obligation for no one date, he said firmly, planting a finger on the table. We go out, have dinner, some drinks, nothing elaborate. You think that will get her off your trail? I know her, Mia. She calculates risks, and she knows who you are. How long we've... His gaze slid across the table as if passing her an offer at a story she could keep for herself. Been hit and miss. Seeing you would be too much of a threat. So you're asking me to pretend to be your girlfriend because you can't just tell your crazy ex to leave you alone? Wait for it, Shar. Wait for it. She stabbed me 6 times, he
Oh my
said.
god. What?
Mia sank back with a frown. Some days it was easy to forget that that had been how Joanna had broken up with him after seeing birthday wishes from Mia on his phone.
Oh my
And I'm not
god.
asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to be my girlfriend for the night. Why can't I just pretend? You're terrible at pretending, and I need you to take this seriously. If you're my girlfriend, you'll act like it. If you're faking, you'll laugh like you always do, and everyone will know. Mia rolled her eyes. They both knew he was right, but she didn't want to say it outright. She never liked to admit how good a read he had on her, and he knew it by the way she dragged her feet to answer him every time. Mia leaned forward against the table. All right, Ken Jacobs, I will be your girlfriend and we can go on one date. And then I'm breaking up with you because it's super weird to take your girlfriend out so you can scare off your creepy ex. You're
Me
not
not
going to break
wrong.
up with You're not going to break up with me, he said with a teasing grin. Yes, I am. Mia. He reached over, setting his hand on hers. You're not going to break up with me. You're using me. Not any more than you used me. That was different. I'll pick you up after work. He stood abruptly, collecting his jacket and shrugging it on. I already have reservations for dinner at that place downtown that you said you always wanted to go to, Ken said quickly as he buttoned up. You should wear something nice. She's She stared at him, blinked twice, and shook her head. Wait, you already made reservations? What if I had said no? He paused and looked at her from beneath his brow. The dark locks of his hair fell around his face as his features softened. He knew he was handsome, always had been. But more importantly, he knew this was not the time to hide his heart from her. I'm taking my girlfriend out tonight. Why wouldn't I make reservations to somewhere she's wanted to go for a while?
Dude.
Mia's shoulders dropped and a gentle smile spread across her face, the apples of her cheeks blooming with a soft pink blush. You're so sweet, Ken. He smiled in return, then quietly finished buttoning. He stepped around the table, set a hand carefully on her shoulder, leaned in, and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. While it wasn't particularly romantic and harkened back to the days as teenagers when flirting was second nature, it was enough to assure her that he was serious. It was a genuine date. There was nothing performative about it because there couldn't be. And what was one date between friends? I'll see you at 8, darling. Be there by 7:30, she said, her fingers trailing down his forearm in a quiet reciprocation. And what will we do with the spare time? I want to make sure I look good, Mia deflected, leaning into her seat and picking up her coffee. She took a sip, then set it back down without looking at him again. It is our anniversary, isn't it? I'd never forget it, he replied, then kissed the top of her head for good measure. Sure, it was for show in case word found its way back to Joanna, but his heart didn't know that. Not entirely. He slid back, adjusted his collar, and headed for the front of the cafe. Every footstep felt a little too hurried, a little too bouncy. But how long had he wanted to ask her on a date? At least a decade. Had it really been that easy after all? His phone chimed. He pulled it from his pocket and opened it. I think I'll wear the red dress you said you liked last time we went out. You remember that one when we went to the gala with everyone? Can't wait for tonight. Love you, babe. Ken stared at the message for a long while. He peeked back over his shoulder to where she sat at the table, sipping her coffee and fiddling with an unfamiliar device. He licked his lips and stepped outside, the cool air stinging his warm skin. The text was unnecessary in the grand scheme of things, but it put her in the right frame of mind. Right mind frame. And that was what mattered about it. You'll look beautiful no matter what you wear, Mia. Before he hit send, he read the message over again. Was it too superficial? Too artificial? Would he call her by name or by a pet name? He'd never considered this before. Would she care what he called her if they were actually dating? No, they were actually dating, even if just for one night. It was real. He clicked back on the text, erasing it. You'll look stunning as always, my dear. Sent. A moment later, she replied, My dear, you're so old fashioned sometimes. I keep saying it because you keep pointing it out, sweetheart. Go back to work before you're late. I love you too. Sent. His heart dropped to his knees. I love you too. Why did he say that? I know you do, the return text read. A smile slid across his face, modest and small at first. But when he looked up at the sky, catching the sunlight breaking through the clouds, his entire being was as light as the air. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But either way, it felt real. And that was all that mattered.
I would like to point out one thing real quick. They can't all be written by me and Patrick.
Okay, so I'm torn here because I hate the concept of the friend zone, but I love fake dating. So I'm flipping back and forth. And this was so I completely forgot about that bullshit with the division gate and the DMV stuff. Like what the there's clearly some crazy technology going on in this fucking story. And I was curious about that, but then I completely forgot it with the heat that was coming off of those two. What the fuck? Is you good?
No, she's not.
While she's recovering, I can hear my generator dying, so I'm gonna go turn it off. I'll be right back.
No, like, yeah, hate the friend zone. I'm totally like, it's so sad. It's like, does this other person really understand the depths and the levels to which some, like, Ken has been there for Mia over the years, and they've been friends, and they were always hanging out, and they were best friends, and that kind of love. Like, good God, Kesh, how many times have we been accused of being lesbian lovers?
It's just this.
Just this year? So, I mean, like, I truly believe that the relationships that work are people who are best friends with each other. I don't care if it's girl, girl, boy, boy, non-binary, girl, boy. I don't care. It's always going to be those best friends who freaking like care about one another, truly. You know, and and truly want what's best for each other, because what's best for each other is what's going to be make them better, right? So the fact that so often people are friend zoned, like, you have no idea. That could be the best lay you fucking ever had. Let alone somebody who actually cares about you. I hate friend zoned.
And I want to specify when I say that I hate friend zoning, what I mean is I hate a guy who pretends to be your friend because he's only waiting to get into your pants. That's all I meant by.
Oh, no. Yeah. But it sparked my whole thing. It's fine. It's
two people who are best friends realizing they have feelings for each other can make a wonderful relationship. In fact, I actually, back when I was still dating, would not date anybody that I wasn't friends with first, because you get to know the person. I just
right.
hate it when like because after a while the guy's like, but I'm your friend. I'm your friend. Look at me, I'm
Right.
your friend. Please date me, I'm your friend. Like that's the part I hate.
Now, see, to me, friend zoned is what actually happened to me at the senior prom. By the way, this was my senior prom date. We went to McDonald's looking fine as fucking shit and danced
Hell
the
yeah.
fucking night away at the dance. Okay, anyways. Patrick, shut the fuck up.
What the?
Elf! Artemis? Y'all, seriously, no. No. This is a consensual friend zone, okay? But no, my point is that I had asked a guy to the prom because he had just got dumped by his girlfriend or broke up with her, whatever. And
Yeah.
he said, I think I'm not going. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. I just figured, we can both go. And because single tickets were more than half a couple's ticket, I was like, we can say we're a couple to get the deal. And he's like, I don't think I'm even going. We literally asked if we could get a couple's ticket. And they said no, because we're both girls. I'm like, fuck you.
Oh, fuck off.
This was 97, 98.
Yeah.
And that's not to excuse it, but that,
It was 98 in a Christian high school.
yeah.
So, yeah, go figure. But when I get there, suddenly everybody's, we're dancing, we're having a good old time, and then everybody's rushing out because they're like, oh my God, did you see John? And I'm like, wait. We have a couple of Johns in our class. So what the fuck? Right? I run out there, and the guy I asked is stepping out of a 1932 canary yellow vehicle with the suicide doors.
Oh.
Girl.
Wearing a fucking zoot suit with pocket watch chain. Well, I'm wearing a leopard print dress and damn near stiletto black heels.
You matched.
And nails out to here that were black with gold and bronze glitter on them.
That's awesome.
Okay. And who steps out the passenger side? His ex-girlfriend.
Oh, fucker.
And she didn't match.
And she didn't match. She wore this little white sheath dress that looked entirely too modern. Didn't look anything like vintage whatever. And I'm like, oh, shit. I ended up having a whole conversation with him, pulling him aside and said, I thought you said you weren't coming. He's like, yeah, well, my parents ended up paying for it and whatnot. They rented me the car. And I'm like, that kind of deal takes a while to put together. So you knew. He goes, no, I swear I didn't know. And I go, well, I've loved you for the last 4 years, right? Oh, Liz, you've always been a great friend.
Ugh.
At that moment, one of our class presidents came around that goes, oh my gosh, you guys look so cute together. I got to get a picture of you. You guys should have come together.
Oh no.
So yes, as somebody who has been friend zoned because they could not get past the idea of looking at me that way.
Yeah.
That's what friend zoned is to me.
That's entirely fair. Yep.
Yeah, right, Elf?
Oh,
That just...
God.
Yeah, so in any event, that made me feel all the things, and yet at the same time, he's looking at her and saying watching her work on tech is like watching Da Vinci paint. Good God! That mental image, if I were a dude, it would be obvious, okay? I'm just saying! I want more of this. You know who you are. You know who you are. And don't give me some cockamamie bullshit about how this ain't your genre or you don't know how far it's gonna go. Like, there are so many the last night and tonight that I want more, and if you don't give it to me, I will,
She knows who you are.
I know who you are. I have duct tape. These are so good, and I'm so proud of every single fucking one of you. Okay. Got another one, because it's 11 o'clock at night. I got to work at 9:30. Maybe I should work from home tomorrow. Just saying. I don't have any meetings. Any hoozle. All right, next. Oh my God, there's a cat. Hi, baby. No! Ow!
And we got claws. Izzy has muted for our sake because there are claws.
And Cash just like, where do I go? What do I do? What do I do? And he's like, ah!
Star was not happy.
So, here's the thing. The first time I tried to give her a bath, she clawed and scraped up and clawed her way out of the tub by this shoulder. And I had stripes of claw marks on there. Well, now I have a beautiful happy birthday to me, 25 years in the making tattoo back there. She can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Another one. What's going on in...
Sorry, I'm choking on air.
We're all okay. We might survive. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. All right, here we go. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but with his hands full, all he could do was squint and endure the stinging. The path was easy to walk, having been worn smooth by the hundreds of pilgrimages taken by his ancestors before him. The sun beat down relentlessly, no clouds in the bright blue sky to offer any relief, and no trees grew along this part of the mountain to offer shade. Nothing grew on this part of the mountain. Nature itself knew what happened at this place. The sweat in his eyes, the ache in his arms, the soreness of his feet, none of it came from the physical toll of the walk. He'd carried heavier things along harder paths. It all came from what he was carrying. And why? He'd spent his entire life with her in his arms or on his back. She wasn't allowed to touch the ground after all. From the moment she'd been born, she'd been in someone's arms. She had to remain pure, untouched by this world, and he'd been the one tasked with making sure that remained true. So he'd spent the last 20 years carrying her, often on his back so his arms were free to use. Her arms would cling around his neck, keeping him company and chattering in his ear while he worked through the day. From the moment he lifted her from the bed in the early morning hours until the moment he settled her back on the mattress after the sun had set, she was with him. 20 years had been spent with the two of them utterly inseparable, and now he carried her to the top of this mountain, carried her one last time to the spot where no one goes, to the place that would separate them at last. This was the entire reason he'd carried her, the same way his grandfather had carried his charge all those years ago. Those that were chosen for this job weren't allowed to have the world touch them, so that when they were brought to this place, when they were offered up, they did not carry the filth of the world itself. The gods were picky eaters after all.
Excuse me?
You heard me. I don't know if I heard me. What? It was why every part of him ached and sweat and protested. It was his duty, and he did not want to do it. Every step forward was a battle, one he knew he could not lose if he was going to save the world far below them, one that came with a price tag he wasn't sure he would be able to pay. She nestled in closer against him, her cheek on his shoulder and her strong arms around his neck. Her legs, thin from never being used, curled a bit tighter around his waist, and he gripped under her knees a bit more firmly. He'd only made it this far up the hill because she would whisper words of encouragement in his ear. She knew what awaited her at the top of the mountain. She'd come to terms with it ages ago. He still struggled with the thought, even as his feet brought him to the flat slab of rock that sat at the highest point of the mountain and the path leveled out. When he remained still, she squirmed in his hold. She couldn't get down, couldn't put her feet to the earth, so she needed him to carry her. Squeezing gently again, she pressed a kiss behind his ear, whispered more words of encouragement to him, assured him this was the right thing to do. The once cloudless sky was suddenly dark over top the mountain. Just the mountain. They'd gathered, eager for their meal. Soft rumbles filled the air, antsy and waiting for him to leave their sacrifice and return to the lands at the base of the mountain. His gaze lifted to the clouds, watching them puff out, shift, and stretch. Brief flashes of lightning danced between them, showing their growing impatience. She shook his shoulder gently, worry starting to color her voice. He was taking too long. Finally, his feet moved, but not forward. He took a step backwards, his eyes still on the clouds. They grew even darker, and the lightning brightened. When he took another step back, a streak of lightning struck the ground near the slab of rock charred black from previous offerings. That lightning bolt sent him into motion. He turned on his heel and bolted down the path back towards the ground. She screamed in his ear, her grip tight around his neck as she yelled for him to go back. The sky roared at his refusal, fury starting to rain down from the skies themselves in hail and lightning. His feet sped up even faster, taking him rapidly down the path he'd spent hours racing down. He knew what he'd done. He knew he'd doomed the world with this choice. Knew it would be a brutal, painful existence for all of mankind with his failure to give the gods their promised reward. He didn't care. If it meant he got even another day with her, he'd endure whatever the gods had planned for them. She was worth the price. Bum, bum, bum.
What's that word again? Ooftonium?
Mhm. That's a failure. Like it's not a failure, but it's definitely a failure. He had
It's
one fucking job.
Yep.
One fucking job.
Yup. Fuck.
That. Uh.
I don't know what to say.
Uh, d- uh,
You good, hon?
just under 900 words. And that author understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. $100%.
And I'm still frozen talking about my tattoo on my screen.
Oh.
Holy shiz nizzle.
I'm sad that the chat is delayed by so much.
I know. And it's delayed on the other one too. It's delayed on YouTube significantly.
Short and sweet. Oh.
Yep.
Plutonium 3. Plutonium 3.
All right. We've got two more. Okay? Two more. But after those 3 back to back, I'm gonna go do a little Hufflepuffing, and we'll be right back.
I'm purely on solar, so I hope I'm still here when you come back.
Oh, okay, I'm just gonna not even a full one, not even a full one. I just too much oxygen in my nicotine system.
I'm just sitting here watching the cat, waiting for it to catch up.
That's some
You all right?
no.
Yeah, fair.
That's called failing up.
Yeah.
That was definitely failing up because he did the moral thing, or did he?
What was it, the moral thing? Because now everyone's gonna die.
Yeah, true. Wow.
Or at least I assume. Die. It's ambiguous, but we can assume it's not good.
I I really hope that they pick up for this next week.
I need a lot of these to be continued.
I want to know what happens. I really want to know what happens. Oh my god. But yeah, we've had some. I agree with Izzy. We've had some really good stuff the past 2 days.
Yeah.
And there's some pieces that have just shocked me who they're coming.
Yeah, I know she said last night, and I agree, is that there's a good number of these that, even as they are, with a little bit of polishing and maybe another 1,000 words, they can be published as a short story.
For sure.
Or fleshed out into a 75,000 to 100,000 word book. That works too. I wouldn't say no to that either.
I mean, I could see it. There's a couple I could see becoming novellas.
Yeah.
I think we need to applaud Izzy when she comes back for this idea, because it's bringing it out of a lot of people.
Izzy or Patrick? Because didn't she say she got the idea from Patrick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Patrick give the idea, or did you come up with it?
No. Patrick was Anonymous 3 last year.
Fair. So then, technically, it deserves credit.
Yes. He was Anonymous 3 doing that one and his regular submission, the gargoyles. And so then I had an idea pop into my head, and so I went ahead and submitted as an anonymous for 2 weeks, and y'all liked what I did, and the feedback was better. So I was like, guess what? You're all doing it for January.
Yeah.
So Patrick gets the blame for that, just like GT Gretz gets the blame to start Julie down this path.
Patrick gets the blame, Izzy gets the credit.
Yes, see, that's how it works. Okay, second to last one. Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Nunez. I'm an estate attorney here in Pottawatomie County, Kansas. I'm looking for Nadine Weiss, great granddaughter of Johannes Kessler of Madison, Wisconsin. The message continued on, providing contact information and a request for callback, regardless of the answer. He just wanted to scratch her off his list. The voice sounded older, much past retirement age. Nadine listened to the message again. Pottawatomie County, Kansas. What? She sat at the computer desk and logged into her Ancestry research account. It had been her mother's idea, set up after Nadine graduated high school. Nearly 25 years later, it was still where she went first when something hereditary didn't make sense. She scrolled through her family tree, looking first through her father's side of the family. No Kessler to be found. Her mother's side took longer with various name changes. Nadine replayed the voicemail. Johannes Kessler appeared just as the attorney said his name. His little leaf waved at her from the screen above her mother's mother. Nadine clicked it, opening the details. There he was. Her maternal great grandfather lived and died in Madison, Wisconsin, where she herself was born, but Johannes was born in Wamego, inside Pottawatomie County, Kansas. She paced her apartment. Kansas? Throughout her career traveling the world, Nadine had never visited Kansas. Nothing ever happened there, not even the Wizard of Oz. Kansas? What the fuck is in Kansas? Her voice reverberated off blank walls, startling her. Nadine glanced around at the emptiness Jamie had left behind. The room's lighter now, emptied of her ex's presence. It wouldn't hurt to give the man a call, right? I'm not committing to anything by calling him. Who cares if I'm the Nadine he's looking for? She lowered herself to the carpet, cross legged where the couch used to stand, and stared at her phone. She clicked the green call button from the voicemail. It rang 3 times. Hello, Gerald speaking. He was out of breath. Nadine's voice cracked. Yes. Hello, Mr. Nunez? Speaking. What can I do for you, young lady? Young lady? Ha! She could hear the roll of wheels and the creak of an old wooden office chair. She pictured a wiry old man lowering himself to sit. I'm Nadine Weiss, Mr. Nunez. You left me a message? Her heartbeat quickened. Here goes nothing. Ms. Weiss, of course. I didn't expect it to work this time. He fairly cackled. I'm sorry. What? Something about his good neighbor vibe made her uncomfortable. Oh, dear me. It is I who should apologize, Ms. Weiss. I've been hunting high and low for a Kessler heir for nearly a decade. Dead ends everywhere, no pun intended. A Kessler heir? To what, sir? Nadine's mouth felt dry. Edith Kessler's estate. The homestead, I should say. You're Johannes Kessler's great granddaughter, correct? He sounded like a happy man, despite talking about dead people. She hesitated a beat too long. Ms. Weiss, did I lose you? No, no, I'm here. I am. That is, I'm Johannes Kessler's great granddaughter. I just confirmed it with records. Can you tell me what this is about? Of course. I knew Johannes' sister, Edith, very well. She never married and left a very cryptic will. The property is expansive, and the house is a historical marvel. Typically, the estate would have gone to the estate by now, but I just couldn't let Edith down. She was my babysitter when I was a child, after all, an honorary aunt, if you will. Nadine broke into his reverie. Mr. Nunez, what is it that you need from me? Oh, right. Forgive an old man his memories. So few stick around when you get to be my age. Papers shuffled over the line. Right. So my dearest friend Edith passed away about 10 years ago. As I said, she never married and had no children, no one to pass the homestead on to. Her only brother, Johannes, moved away some 75 years ago and never returned. I've searched for all his I've searched for his heirs, all of them gone, until you. Me? Her palms turned slick with sweat. Oh, yes, dear. I'm sorry to tell you this. His tone softened the way she supposed a grandparent's might. But you are the last living descendant of Johannes, making you the last living heir to the Kessler homestead. I only found you from your mother's obituary. I'm so sorry for your loss, my dear, and when you were so young, too. The mention of her mother brought a prick of tears to her eyes. She thought of her mother often, of course, but her death as the breadcrumb for this man to call her 20 years after the fact? She shook her head, clearing the mental cobwebs. Thank you. So, is there something you need from me, Mr. Nunez? Papers to sign? My dear, that's the tip of the iceberg. If you take on the role of heir, there are specific terms in Edith's very cryptic will. If you like, I can email you a copy. Take it to a lawyer before you decide. I can advise, but as I was Edith's lawyer, well, that might be a conflict of interest. You need someone who has your best interests at heart, not the estate's. Nadine's breath caught. She was used to shyster lawyers, not forthright ones. Thank you, Mr. Nunez. Your sincerity is quite refreshing. She provided her email address and told him she would be in touch. Within moments, her laptop dinged, indicating a new email. She rose unsteadily, feeling the fine dust of kitty litter under her palm. She'd need to vacuum, and she'd need to find a lawyer. She opened up the email on the computer while she thumbed open her contacts on her phone. Darcy picked up in one ring. Hey, girl, what's up? The noise of the office behind her muffled as she closed her door. Hey, so I need a favor. Do you still talk to that lawyer? She opened the attachment and viewed a 25-page PDF copy of her great grandaunt's will. Jeremy? I mean, he's good for the occasional hookup. Why? Darcy's keyboard clacked noisily. Does he work with estates? I don't remember what kind of lawyer you said he was. And even if you don't know, as far as law is concerned, would you trust him? The clacking stopped. Nadine, what's going on? Nadine shifted in her chair, pulling one leg to her chest. I got a weird call this morning from an estate lawyer and was sent a will from some long lost relative. I need an estate lawyer to look it over and tell me what to do. Ooh, no shit? Damn! Rich long lost relative? I don't know. That's why I need a lawyer. Okay, well, I don't know what kind of law he practices, but let me give him a quick call. If he's not, you want me to see if he has a recommendation? We dealing with California law or Wisconsin? Nadine sighed. You're not going to believe this, Darcy, but it's Kansas. Darcy scoffed. Kansas? What the fuck is in Kansas? Nothing happens in Kansas. That's what I said, Nadine laughed. I appreciate the help, Darcy. Anything for you, Chica. Give me a few, okay? She hung up. Nadine looked around the apartment again, taking in the aftermath of a Kmart blue light special sale. Darcy would get back to her. She knew that, but she'd likely have to spin the flirtation for a bit, and that could take time. She moved to the kitchen, thankful that she'd paid for the vacuum. At nearly $500, she'd be loath to buy a new one at this point. She started by the front door, methodically sweeping back and forth in utterly straight lines, emptying the canister when necessary. On her second pass, the phone buzzed in her back jeans pocket. Hello, what you got? Besides a hot date for Friday night? Darcy sounded breathless. Good news for you, too. Shoot, Darcy, really? You didn't have to go on a date with him for me. Girl, did you or did you not hear me say hot date? Whatever, moving on. She snapped her fingers, reminding Nadine they were on a mission. Okay, so luck of the goddamn draw, Jeremy actually does practice estate law. Who knew? Darcy laughed. Now, obviously, he doesn't practice in Kansas, but he can certainly advise and potentially partner with a local estate attorney in order to stay your primary advisor. If you want, of course, no pressure. Nadine felt a bit of the trepidation ease within her chest. Okay, but No buts, Nadine. You asked me earlier if I would trust Jeremy to handle something like this, and I never answered you. Frankly, we never talk about work, if you get my meaning. But I will tell you this, the care, attention, and fairness he puts into being a lover and his position at his firm tells me that I would absolutely trust him to handle this well. Nadine rolled her eyes. Gross, Darcy. Don't tell me Jamie doesn't. I don't want to talk about that now, ever again. Nadine sighed. I've just joined the newly single club. I'm sitting in a half empty apartment right now. Oh, babe, I'm so sorry. Drink Saturday night at my place? You need to get everything out in whatever way you need. We could do a rage room in the afternoon.
Oh, they're fun.
Nadine smiled. Darcy lifting her up, filling her gaps, just like she always did with her articles. A little editing here, a little zhuzhing there, making her look and feel good. Thanks, hun. We'll see. She pulled a pad of sticky notes out of the desk caddy. You have Jeremy's number? She jotted it down, including the name of the firm. Thanks, babe. I'll let you know about Saturday. She stared at the number. More cleaning before I deal with that. Organized home, organized mind. She stood and stared at the vacuum. Come on, Sony. Let's slay the mess beast. She named her vacuum. Ugh. 2 hours and many trips to the dumpster later, Nadine was finished. Very little furniture remained, but all the appliances had been hers so she could function. The lack of a bed might pose a problem. Her text message tone sounded. Darcy, call him. Nadine rolled her eyes. Nadine, I needed to clean my apartment first. Nadine laughed when the all capitals response came back immediately. Darcy, bitch, call him.
Damn.
Nadine sent back the thumbs up emoji. All right, don't get your panties in a twist. Love you, but damn. She sat again at her desk, feeling more put together than she had all day. Satisfied, she dialed her phone with Jeremy's number. Jeremy Novick, how may I help you? Hi, Jeremy. My name is Nadine Weiss. Yes, Nadine. Darce told me you would call. I'm free the rest of the afternoon. Do you want to email me the will and I get back to you, or do you want to email it and we get together for lunch to go over it in real time? You need to eat and keep a clear head for this. Nadine's jaw slacked. I'm sorry, but shouldn't we talk about fee or something first? Oh, absolutely not, Nadine. This is off the books. Darcy talks about you so much, I feel as if I already know you. A pen tapped. How about you meet me at Tacolicious in 30 minutes? Darcy said you love Mexican food. She stuttered. If this is some ploy. He laughed, a deep, rich tone that rattled her bones. Nadine, please. You are a friend of Darcy's. I'd wager to say her best friend. Darcy's she's my go-to person. Between you and me, if she and I weren't both so marriage adverse, I'd get down on one knee. Nadine felt her eyes widen. Nadine's eyes are widening. My eyes are widening. Like, what the fuck? He went on. We have a good thing, and we don't abuse it. I care about her and what matters to her, which includes you. I want to help in any way I can. Send me that will, and I'll look over it quickly. Tacolicious at 3, okay? I'll get you my initial thoughts. She managed an affirmative, got the email, and disconnected the call. Stunned, she looked down at her shaking hands. She texted Darcy back. Nadine, woman! You didn't tell me it was that serious with him. Little typing bubbles appeared, then stopped. They started again, then disappeared.
Mhm.
Nadine. Darcy! The bubbles returned. Darcy. It is, but it isn't. It's complicated, but it isn't. Look, I don't know how to explain it. Nadine. Drinks. Saturday. Your place. You're spilling it all. She locked her phone and forwarded the will to Jeremy. All she had to do was eat tacos with a man her best friend had mind-blowing sex with and talk about a dead stranger's will. What could be more natural? Dun dun dun.
That was great.
Dun dun dun.
Darcy is a ride or die, and I am here for this girl.
Yes.
Holy shit.
That's friendship right there. Like,
What you got other than a hot date on
Take
Friday
this
night?
one for the team to a whole nother level.
Also, little random, I know, but like credit to that old man. Spent 10 years trying to find an heir. Damn.
yeah.
She was his honorary aunt and his babysitter when he was a child. Good God! How old does that make him?
Right?
Yeah, I was sitting here trying to do math in my head. That was not going well. Because if that's her great grandmother,
Great grandaunt. So her
Okay.
great grandfather's sister is what I read.
right? I got a little confused there for a minute. So again, still her great granddad's sister, her great grand aunt. There's usually at least 20 years.
Uh-huh.
As far as I know, that we did not find out how old the character was, but I'm guessing
She did mention
that her mother died 20 years prior when she was a child.
no, because she also said that her mom set up her ancestry research account 25 years ago
Right.
when she graduated high school.
Okay, so that's
So this character is middle-aged.
yeah, like I would roughly say, well, late 30s,
Early
mid
40s.
40s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
late 30s, early 40s. And her mom would have been approximately 20 to 25 years older than her. Her mother would have been approximately 20 to 25 years older than her. And then her father is approximately 20 to 25 years older. And this is his sister who died. Good God, how old was this bitch when she died?
103. 103. We're going to go with that. 103.
I think the record's 118, so it's possible.
It's possible. And on top of that, he said that she never married and never had kids. We know that's what kills women.
Yep.
Yeah. No, like it's actually a physical thing. It's been proven. It takes nutrients out of your body.
To create little humans.
Yeah.
Who don't appreciate us.
Because to create, you need to sacrifice.
God, Darcy.
That is.
Oh my God,
I
I love Darcy so
see how
much.
this plays out for next week.
Right?
Okay.
Last one.
Anonymous. Whoever you are, you're going to tell us what's happening. As soon
Yeah,
as
we need to
possible.
know about the taco date. That's not a date, but is off the books. And what's in the will? What's the fuck?
Also,
What is so I'm looking for a word. It starts with a C, but I can't think of the fucking word. I think it starts with a C. Colluded? Convoluted?
convoluted?
Convoluted. What is so convoluted in this fucking will that it's 25 fucking pages?
Right? Jesus.
Now, I've seen some long ass wills before. I've seen them like upward of 50, 60 pages. But that was usually like they owned a business, they owned a massive estate that they inherited and in turn inherited, and it gone on down the fucking line. Is that the case we're dealing with here? We
Right?
don't fucking know, and now we need to know.
Also,
Well,
every time a prompt is read out and there isn't an obvious failure, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, did they just elect not to do it? Or are they setting us up for a severe failure in the next story? And it makes me very nervous for the next prompt. Now I'm sitting here like, there was no obvious failure in this story. How bad is this meeting gonna go? Is it gonna be fine? Is it gonna
The
be fine because they're not doing the failure, or is it gonna bomb?
Well, here's the thing. How bad are the terms of the will? Because
Right?
the terms of the will could be the failure.
My bet is
I'm sitting over here sweating every time there's a prompt that doesn't have a failure, and it's like, are they setting us up? Because I did say that if you're doing one prolonged story, the failure doesn't have to happen right away. So like every time it's like, are you not doing the prompt, or are you setting us up for a doozy later on? What is going on? Oh my
well, and the lawyer said something about his dear friend Edith leaving a very weird request in the will.
Yeah. And does she fail that request, and then something spectacular blows up in her face? What is going on?
my bet is the failure is that Darcy and the lawyer end up married.
Don't even put that out there. Don't even.
I mean, the fact that the lawyer is like, look, I'm not even charging you for this. I feel like I know you because Darcy, who I bang a lot, talks about you all the time. She said you like Mexican, right? Like,
First of all, why does he have that much information about his hookup's best friend? That's another thing.
Polycule.
We are not. I cannot say we are not because I'm not the writer of this, but I will
or
say
are you?
polyculing this. Are we polyculing? Who knows? I guess we won't know until next week or the end of the month. I mean,
Facts. Okay,
one.
we got one more. Let's
One more.
make this count. They I see in the chat that they just now got to the named vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I don't know what that other one is. I think that actually might be a done up for next week already.
Yes, we already have one anonymous in for next week.
Yep. Because that wasn't there before.
I'm following Leon's predictions in the Discord, and I'm just grinning the whole time because I have the answer.
You have the answers. We were talking about that last night, that technically of the 5 regular hosts, Patrick is technically the only one who could play because he chooses to stay oblivious to who is who. And he said, I'm not going to because I pop into Discord too much and hear people talking, so I'm not going to do that. It's like, oh, okay. So
I'm too nosy. I couldn't resist.
all right, last one. Tears in the rain. The wind was steep, and the blackness felt like a blanket. He couldn't really feel the cold as he used to, some 600 years earlier. It is a long time for a soul to be walking the earth and watching the blood bags be born, grow, make the same mistakes over and over, and die. He didn't really remember how it was to be one. As the rain was falling down like a cleansing on New York, he was sitting at the top of the pencil tower, watching the sun appear over the Hudson on the left and starting to light up Central Park. It was a ritual he was getting used to, starting to maintain as the sun appeared a little more every day, despite the skin on the face burning and drying tears of blood on the cheek. He was known as Giles, simply and uncharacteristically unpretentious of him to be called like that. He would then leave his throne of pain and regain his apartment in the comfortable coffin he had been having or he had had for a little more than a century at this point, sucking on a bloody tissue to help his skin heal before he closed the coffin on himself for the day. Do vampires sleep? Is a question humans sometimes ask themselves. They do, not that they need to, but when you are stuck in a coffin for the next 10 hours, there isn't much else to do. That is why the vampires tend to prefer northern hemisphere in the winter. Longer nights are always welcomed to trump the boredom of the eternal life. How did I pronounce that? Giles?
You said
Yeah.
Giles, but I think it might be Giles, like from Buffy.
Giles? Like Buffy?
Does it start with a G?
Yeah.
Then yeah, it's probably Giles.
Giles was old for vampire standards, considering most of them perished around the late 19th century due to some writers starting a cabal against them to sell a few books and motivating various adventurers getting some trophies out of them. Giles had been around for a good amount of time, mostly keeping to himself. As a European, he benefited greatly from the various wars, offering him a mostly unconcerned playground to get victims, whether it was during the Hundred Years' War, the French Revolution, the Prussian Wars, or the two World Wars. Keeping an estate wasn't that easy, sadly. So migrating to a multicultural and wide city like New York had been a very good choice. Giles couldn't find sleep tonight. He felt torn by the idea of living and couldn't shake off the feeling of wanting to see the sun rise and get submerged by light. Death isn't the same for humans, he thought. Living 80 or 90 years, loving, having kids, achieving things. The lack of time had an appeal and made their life worth it. But he couldn't say the same thing for himself anymore. As the night would approach, he had his eyes opened, feeling energy and strength grow up in him like a disease. As the sun was dying somewhere on the other side of the earth, he slammed the top of his coffin loudly against the ceiling in a left to right motion of his right arm. He felt very far from the thoughts he had the same morning, but he knew those would come back, and he knew he needed to have a project. Maybe he should imitate humans. What do they do to give meaning to their life? He got out on the streets and moved to Soho on the sub to observe and to see for himself. He sat next to a man, probably going back home after a day of hard work. He turned his head and watched him in the eyes. "What is your name?" he said. "Sorry, do we know each other?" The man replied, visibly disturbed to be talking with someone. "What is your name?" Giles repeated, plunging his eyes into the man's soul. "My name is Robert," the man answered. "What is the meaning of life, Robert?" "I don't know. I am not a religious person. What do you want to do before you are dead?" "I want a loving wife, kids, some comfort, a house, grow old without money issues, see my kids grow old without money issues, and be peaceful." Giles took a moment to absorb the meaning of the answer. Maybe it wasn't so complicated after all. He wouldn't have any issues with money, having invested early into various companies that grew bigger than countries. He had more than enough money to do whatever he wanted in their world. So it seemed that a family was what he wanted. But was he even capable of love? He put a hand on his chest, trying to feel a beating at the exact place his heart was, only detecting a very faint movement. Love was associated with that organ. For as long as he could read the great writers that pesky humanity has produced, he didn't really know if there was an actual relation between the two, as that feeling would escape him and he couldn't remember it. He tried to remember his childhood, as his mother was tending for him in his castle during the 15th century. He then remembered he liked her warm presence in the room. Was this love? Warmth, the cold, love and hate, all those things seemed like distant capabilities that only humans could experience, but he had to try. I'm gonna take a break here just for one uno momento. That's what so many people this ex, ex, existential crisis of
Oh,
vampires when they can't remember what it was like to feel human. It's just love it. He got out of the subway and into Soho, in quest of some night bar he could spend the first part of the evening at, and elected a small concert venue near Broadway and Canal Street. There was a couple of goons at the entrance filtering people inside, and a long file of half-drunk people waiting to get in. He decided to not get in immediately and take the file to feel the attendance here. A group of girls in their shallow 20s, dressed way too short and way too little for the weather, were shivering and talking about the place as if it was the entrance of heaven, and they had to get in for their social status. Some boys around were watching them like he had been watching wolves look at a sheep herd, barely hiding their watery mouth at the idea of consuming such delicate meat, and acting all smiley and pretty and hope they would notice. Giles wasn't particularly the kind of person that would mind such a display of inappropriate behaviors, as he was usually using the same kind of skills to prey on his victims for a bowl of their blood before he let them walk away alive and confused. Watching those people, his eyes came across one of the girls. She inspected him, his noble appearance, and destitute didn't seem to be scaring her. She maybe thought of him as a stylish influencer with perfect cheekbones and a pale skin. The easiest part of the current era of mankind was how easy it was to fit in a world that had decided every kind of look or attitude was okay, as long as it was consensual. Giles knew that all too well, having from time to time partaked in vampire lovers' communities since the 70s. Women would actually line up to get bitten and offer some blood to him. Sadly, the AIDS epidemic at the end of the 80s made it very difficult to feed that way, but it somehow was slowly coming back since the 2000s with a very gothic revival of both music and style. Giles was very different from what he had been once, a knight in armor, facing Henry VI of England on some field in France during the Hundred Years' War, next to Joan of Arc. He sometimes thought about the night he became a vampire, about the hunger he felt for years after that, using his own political power to feed on kids exclusively to stay young. He was now very far from that version of himself, losing control and doing terrible things. He felt very mature, and a smile appeared discreetly on his face. "First time coming?" said the girl. "Yes." Giles lied, only now realizing that girl that looked at him earlier had come to talk to him. "Maybe I'll show you around if you get me a drink?" she added. "Why not?" he said, adding a smile and watching the boys from earlier silently rage. And that's how he met Emma. Dun dun dun.
Oh, Emma's gonna be important to that fucking story.
What's it? Julie okay? Is Julie okay there?
No, Julie's not okay. That was very disturbing. Um, Mainly because one of the conspiracy theories that's going around is how the elite are staying so young is because they're drinking the blood of children that are terrified. And the fact that this story kind of matches up with that, it's very disturbing to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, when your father is probably one of the biggest conspiracy theorists the South has, and you got to hear all of these crazy psychotic conspiracy theories, and the way he talks about them makes them sound convincingly
Legit?
real and
Yeah.
plausible. Yeah. My father was never that bad. Pop was never so bad that he would like. He had some conspiracy theories, but mostly about how he was half alien. So,
Which there was no showing of otherwise. So I mean, like,
there really wasn't. And yes, the conversation came out that, yeah, that would make me a quarter alien, and that must be why medications don't work on me the way they're supposed to.
Explain a fair bit, actually.
and also explains why drinking water makes you worse.
Right?
You're not a plant.
not a plant, but I gotta have sugar water. Regular water just kind of like.
According to M. Night
Okay.
Shyamalan, aliens don't like water, so.
Oh, yes.
Yes, they could doom scroll. I agree, Bitzer. I agree. Vampires in this day and age could sit in their coffin and doom scroll.
Oh my god, the way we bed rot.
I
burn away.
know.
Like, as long as I had a full charge of my phone, I could burn away the 12 hours of daylight easily.
I've been known to do
Exactly.
so. But I don't know if that's executive dysfunction or literally depression. At this point, it could be a combination of both.
I mean, for me, it's a little bit of both.
So
I hate how delayed it is. And the fact that the Steam Deck, everything else is set up exactly the way it's supposed to. The Steam dock is disconnected, and yet we're still so far delayed.
But that's
So
good.
freaking sorry.
That's good
Huh.
though, because that means it's not the Steam Deck's fault, so you can use it.
So I can use it. We just have to figure out what the hell is going on with the internet. So,
well,
Kids,
I'm sure that's a phone call you can make tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna need it for work.
It just sucks that it happened on the first
Nope,
day
nobody's on it.
of the first weekend of Fresh Ink, and it happened on the anniversary show. That's why it really sucks.
That's definitely. And the fact that this is all anonymous and our reactions are half the reason. They don't just come to hear the great stories. They come to see our reactions and our theories and our yelling and our screaming and our crying and everything. And but we had several about inheritance this weekend. We had a couple about, missed opportunities or, relationships of various kinds falling apart. I mean, we had a guy who has is asking the love of his motherfucking life to go out on an actual date because his ex stabbed him 6 times when he saw when she saw happy birthday messages from said, like, and Colin with his dad, and everything from yesterday. Like, good God, you guys brought it.
Well, and let's not forget, we got a high school story that is literally not about high school kids.
Oh, God. Okay.
Brush that one over for a minute.
Well, is he muted for those listening?
I just, everything has been amazing. Thank you for embracing this, and I can't wait to see how everybody sets up critical failures in the upcoming weeks and the upcoming stories. Don't forget, we have the I closed Discord, and I'm not going to argue with my computer to pull it back up.
I got it right here. What are you looking for?
Prompt.
The prompt is nope, that's suggestions.
Hold on.
Actual. There you go. That explains more than you intended. Dialogue.
Yeah. Which is ominous inside itself.
Right.
Though does play straight into that one story with Darcy, which kind of made me a little worried.
That reveals more than you intended. Do you think that goes with Darcy?
I think that is something. It's either going to be something that her best friend says or the lawyer says.
I was gonna say,
it's not something she's going to say, but it's going to be something that's said to her.
Yeah, it can be any of them saying it to anyone out of the three, which I'm still rooting for a throuple, me personally, but
Well, and then we've got Mia and Ken, right? Colin could say it to his mother. Well, what other stories did we have? Let me refresh my memory. Oh God, God, the Wounded Grove with
Whoa.
the dryad and
Yep.
the oh God, that would be I all these I cannot wait to see where this dialogue just plays in and
Takes us
everything.
next week. Yeah.
So
I'm especially interested in the Dryad one because I've had a story ruminating in my head for a while about a Dryad who actually destroys their own tree and becomes a blighted Dryad and turns evil. So that one's got me locked in. It's like, oh, let me see if I can get some inspiration out of that. What's going on?
Bedtime.
and that's my log reading elementary theme song starring Lucy Liu and Johnny Lee Miller telling me it is time to log my reading, which means it's actually time for bed.
Yeah,
So,
it's 1 a.m. here. I need to go to bed.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
guys. So I guess it's my time to give you the spiel.
Yeah.
Give us the
Have an
spiel,
amazing
Julie.
Yes, everybody have an amazing week. Keep your asses out of trouble. If you feel like you need to be in trouble, pick up a pen and paper. Just do that instead. Because we do need an amazing set of reading again next week. We did break our freaking goal. We broke our record, and let's see if we can continue breaking records this year because that's one of the things that we hope to do. Get more people writing, get more people reading, and get more people on the show. That if anything is great commentary in the freaking dial in the boxes. Um, Otherwise, don't add to this population. Don't subtract from the population. If you get your ass arrested, that's probably your own fucking fault. But call us; we might have bail money. Otherwise, we'll at least take up a donation for your commissary. Uh, but do assert dominance because we don't support pussies around here. Uh,
You gotta stop saying that.
okay, we'll
Why?
figure.
It's true.
Well, there's a whole commentary behind that. We will get into that in the Discord. But either way, be brave, be bold, but always stay humble. And we will see you again here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye.
Oh shit! I gotta switch the scene.